DLC Wave 5 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came with new characters, new courses, and new balance changes and gameplay changes. I have already made a video going over the characters and courses, but in this video, let's understand the new changes that they've made to the game. So here are the balance changes to the characters and vehicles, as well as adjusting invincibility stats. I have all of the old stats and all of the new stats pulled up here, but let's quickly go over the rest of the changes. I won't go over all of these, but some of them are actually very important. Made it so that a warning is not displayed when a red shell is targeting opponents. This is huge. It was very annoying to not know who a red shell was targeting, and then you don't know whether or not to use your item, which is especially important if you have a star that you're trying to use at a certain time, or if you have a super horn that you're trying to save for a blue shell. Before, you had to take a risk and look backwards to see who the red shell is going for, or just defend against the red shell and maybe waste your item. And now you don't have to worry about that at all. And they did fix some issues as well. These are not that important, but fixed an issue where a warning would not appear when an opponent used a bullet bill in online matches. I have had this problem so many times where I did not feel like I had enough time to react to a bullet bill. It is so great that they have fixed this. Next up, we have the balance changes. The invincibility stat was changed all across the board, and honestly, this makes a lot of sense. Nintendo first introduced the invincibility stat in Wave 2 of the DLC, and what this does is it changes the amount of time that you can stay invincible after getting hit. And if you make a build that is focused on invincibility, you can stay invincible for an absurd amount of time. When they rolled out these changes, the idea was to nerf Waluigi and buff some of the lighter characters that weren't quite as good. But then in Wave 4 of the DLC, they made a bunch of balance changes without changing the invincibility. And what this meant was Yoshi became the best character and had a crazy invincibility stat, while Waluigi wasn't so great anymore and had a bad invincibility stat. So with the new changes, you can see that the lowest invincibility are at the best characters. The invincibility stat is not that important, but at least it makes sense now. Also, 6 characters have now been buffed in the mini turbo stat, which is the most important stat in the game. The mini turbo stat doesn't show up in the stat screen in-game, which is really unfortunate considering how important it is, but what it does is it changes how long it takes for a mini turbo to charge up when you're drifting, and it also affects how long the mini turbo lasts. We've had 3 new characters added. Kamek has the same stats as the Luigi class, Wiggler has the same stats as the Waluigi class, except uses a smaller vehicle frame, so Wiggler is actually better, and Petey Piranha has the same stats as the Metal Mario class, but with a larger hitbox and a much larger glider? Is that a glitch? These vehicles had their speed increased by 1, these vehicles had their mini turbo increased by 1, and these vehicles had their mini turbo increased by 2. I mean, these used to be the worst vehicles in the game, so this is great. These tires had their speed increased by 1, and these tires had their mini turbo increased by 1. Alright, so today we're going to be answering these questions. Who is the best character of Wave 5? What is the best vehicle? What are the best tires? And what is the best glider? So here I have all the stats for Wave 5, I have all the characters, and we also have vehicles, tires, and gliders. I got all of those stats from the Super Mario Wiki, I just copied it, I will be honest. I know this looks like a lot, we are going to simplify this. So I've narrowed it down to all the stats that have changed between waves. We have mini turbo, ground speed, and invincibility. So before I nerd out on these stats, I just want to say that this game is extremely balanced. This is one of the most balanced games I have ever played. So if your favorite character is Toad, play as Toad. If you still lose, you suck at Mario Kart. It's not because you're using Toad. Toad is fine. Okay, let's get that clear. Every character is viable. Any character can win. Okay, with that out of the way, let's nerd out and find out who's the best. So first off, let me explain the speed plus mini turbo column. This column is exactly what it sounds like. I took the mini turbo stat and the ground speed stat of any character and I just added them together. Why did I do that? Well, mini turbo is the most important stat in the game and ground speed is the second most important stat in the game, but they are very, very close in how important they are. This means that if you just add them together, you get a pretty good representation of how good this character is. But it's not that simple because the mini turbo stat is more important than the ground speed stat usually. So that's why even though someone like Baby Mario has a stat total of 7 and Bowser has a stat total of 10, that doesn't necessarily mean Bowser is better than Baby Mario, because Baby Mario has more mini turbo and Bowser doesn't, so Baby Mario has more of the slightly more important stat. With that being said though, speed plus mini turbo is a very good indicator. So you might be thinking to yourself, hey, if speed plus mini turbo is the most important number, let's just look at all the ones that have 10. And if mini turbo is more important than ground speed, then out of all the 10s, let's just find which one has the most mini turbo. Yeah. Have you seen a lot of Yoshis online lately? And before the last set of balance changes, Waluigi was the best character. Waluigi had the exact same description back then. And you might have noticed, hey, Tanooki Mario, Inkling Boy, and Male Villager, don't they have the same stats? Yes, thanks to the buffs. They didn't have this before. So now you're going to be seeing a lot more of them online as well, because these 7 characters are almost identical. The only difference is in the extra stats. These stats are really not that important, but Tanooki Mario has more weight, and Yoshi has more traction. Weight matters all the time, but not by that much when it's a 1-point difference. And traction matters a lot, but only on a slippery road, which is hardly any of the tracks. So instead of stressing about this, which actually doesn't matter, why don't we just let it go and pick the character you like more out of these 7? So we can pretty easily say that these 7 characters are top contenders, but what about the ones with almost the same stats? Well, we can also throw these guys in as top contenders. Why is that? The reason is because it's not as simple as saying mini turbo is better than speed. Usually mini turbo is better than speed, but not on every single track. For example, Mute City and Moonview Highway are very speed-focused tracks because they have boost panels all over the place and mini turbos don't help. Half of Rock Mountain is a glider. Good luck charging mini turbos on that. So should we just find the best character across all tracks and average it out? No, because they don't all get picked at the same rate. If you're playing online, being good on DK Summit is more important than being good on Cheap Cheap Beach. So if I were to tell you that there is a definitive best character, I would be lying. So who is the best character? These 16, which includes medium-sized me. So just go design your own character. There are infinitely many best characters. Okay, let's look at the vehicles now. So this is wave 4, and this is wave 5. And let's scroll down to the faster vehicles. This is wave 4, and this is wave 5. Badwagon used to be the worst, and it's like pretty obvious. Mini turbo's low, speed plus mini turbo is low. So yeah, they are not necessarily the worst anymore because they've been buffed, and you could argue now that the Steel Driver is probably the worst one. New video idea? Okay, but these vehicles down here are not really worth playing anyway. And why? That's because they share the same speed plus mini turbo as some of the ones up here, but they just have lower mini turbo, and mini turbo is more important, so let's look at the ones up here. Now this looks pretty balanced, but if you played during wave 4, you would have noticed a lot of Teddy Buggy and Inkstriker. Do you see why now? But we are on to wave 5, and let's see if these balance changes have really helped. So of course, Streetle class, Pipe Frame class, and the Tanooki Kart class have all been buffed. On the surface, it seems like these are all equivalent and these are all equivalent. So they are all great. Let me just make that clear right now. All of these vehicles are viable and near optimal. All of these vehicles are viable and near optimal. The rest of these vehicles are somewhat viable, but with the vehicles, it's not quite as simple as with the characters because of the stats that I'm not showing you. There's so much more variety over here. So first of all, handling, like that really doesn't matter among the viable vehicles. They're all great. So we're gonna just look at these. So where else to start but Teddy Buggy? I thought this was the best vehicle in wave 4. We're gonna use this one as a baseline for comparing to the Pipe Frame and the Streetle, which have the same mini turbo and speed stats. The Streetle has more water speed, but it's missing glider speed and anti-gravity speed, which are both way more important than water speed. It has 1 more point of acceleration, but loses 2 points of weight. It does have more traction, so it's better on slippery tracks, but there just aren't that many slippery tracks. Now, if we look at Pipe Frame, again, there's more water speed than the Teddy Buggy, but you lose out on glider and anti-gravity speed by a lot again. You get more acceleration, you don't lose quite as much weight, and you have slightly more traction. So these don't add up to much. The anti-gravity and glider speed really are more important here. So even though Nintendo has buffed these vehicles, I'm still gonna say the Teddy Buggy is better. But the difference is so small that these are all great now. And a lot of people have said the Inkstriker is actually the best vehicle. I wouldn't agree, but what do I know? Now what happens if we compare the Inkstriker to the Tanooki Kart or the standard kart? Well, let's take a look at the Tanooki Kart. More water speed, less glider and anti-gravity speed. Sound familiar? What about the standard kart? Less glider and anti-gravity speed, but more acceleration. I mean, you're kind of sacrificing every single other stat just to get 1 more point of acceleration. So within these vehicles, I'm gonna give it to the Inkstriker again. And you might be wondering about all the vehicles down here. Well, at that point your mini turbo is getting a bit low and you don't really gain anything good out of it. Like your anti-gravity speed is just not good. Like Inkstriker is still better. And like some of these have a decent weight stat, but generally you're just missing out on a lot of stats if you pick anything from down here. And I want to give honorable mention to the Bitty Buggy. It does have the highest mini turbo, but you're sacrificing 2 points of ground speed in order to get 1 point of mini turbo. When playing online, that's probably not going to be worth it, but if you are time trialing specific tracks, then that can be worth it because of how much you want to optimize your mini turbo stats. So at the tippy top, nothing has changed. We still have Teddy Buggy and Inkstriker as the best vehicles, but if you want to relax your requirements a little bit, then we have a lot more to choose from compared to before. Next up, we have the tires. Here's what it looks like in Wave 5, and here's what it looks like in Wave 4. As you can see, they have made it much more balanced now, but these are the faster tires, and again, they have too low of a mini turbo stat for you to really care. And since these were the best tires to begin with, pretty much nothing has changed here. So it looks like rollers are just the best if you follow the old rule of highest stat total and then look for the highest mini turbo out of all of those. And yeah, I would agree, roller is the best tires, but that doesn't mean there's no reason to use some of these other tires, so let's quickly look at the other stats here. So we're going to be comparing to rollers here. First thing you'll notice about rollers is it has no anti-gravity speed, it has no weight, and it has no invincibility. If you want to make any of these stats better, you are going to have to sacrifice mini turbo, but here we go. With the button and leaf tires, you get an extra anti-gravity boost and invincibility. I wouldn't say this is necessarily worth it because you lose out on a point of acceleration. With sponge tires, you gain some weight, you gain a lot of invincibility, and you gain a lot of off-road traction. But you also lose 2 points of acceleration, so I would say there's really no reason to go sponge tires. Now, you might be wondering why don't we go cushion tires because it has even more invincibility. This is because they're bouncy and can mess up your driving, so yeah, I wouldn't go for cushion tires. Now, one of the reasons you might actually want to go for sponge tires is so that you can lower your handling stat. This makes it so that you can do soft drifting without taking turns too tight, which is a bit more of an advanced thing, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just don't even worry about that. Then we have the GLA tires. Don't pick standard or blue standard if you're going for optimal because GLA tires are the same thing with 1 extra point of invincibility. You get a boost in invincibility, in traction, and in weight, but you lose out on some acceleration. So with that being said, I don't think there are great reasons to pick these tires, although they are all completely viable. I am going to give best tires overall to the roller, but these are all great as well. And finally for gliders, I've opened up all the stats to show you that there has just been no change between Wave 4 and Wave 5. And it's pretty easy to figure out the best glider. It's going to be this class of glider. And specifically, people like to pick the cloud glider or the paper glider because when you're gliding, these ones block your vision the least. Mainly what you get with the cloud glider compared to the peach parasol is you gain a water speed and traction, but you lose 1 point of weight. Is that better? Not necessarily. You might like the weight better, so don't be a sheep and just pick this one just because everyone else does. These gliders are almost exactly the same. So to review, here are all the best characters, here are the best vehicles, here are the best tires, and here are the best gliders. So you can take all this and go confidently design a new combo. Or here are some combos that you can try out. A great all-around combo is Inkling Boy on the Inkstriker and roller. Or go with Kamek on the Teddy Buggy and rollers. If you want high traction so you don't slip around, then try Male Villager on the Tanooki Kart and the sponge tires. Or you can swap your vehicle to Streetle for more mini turbo and less speed. And if you want to get the most out of your mini turbo stats, you can try Yoshi, Bitty Buggy, Roller, or Peach, Teddy Buggy, and Roller. If I made this exact same video during Wave 4, the end results would look like this. So when I go play online now, I'm gonna see a lot more variety, and I will welcome that with open arms because what was this? Come on guys, in a children's party game, this is embarrassing. I usually just upload online races, but let me know if you want to see more videos like this one. Thanks for watching!